Jackson gave me the news of a planet far away. And Colonel O'Neill will assemble a team that will try to save the day. Dr. Sam has a master plan and a science attitude. And the job for Jill, he's part of the deal with his trusty go-out. It's just a regular day at Stargate Command, and it might be hard to understand.
Chevron 1 encoded. Chevron 2 encoded. Chevron 3 encoded. Chevron 4 encoded. Oh no, this is gonna happen. Chevron 5 encoded. Chevron 6 encoded. Chevron 7 locked. We have a stable world.
Welcome back, everyone.
Welcome back. Hi, Ergo.
To 3 Fries Short.
Perfect.
I'm your co-fry, Sarah, featured by our guest star, Ergo the Cat.
Hi, I am our co-fry, Cristina. My cats are avoided. Oh, wait, actually, there is one
Oh.
silhouetting in the background.
I am your co-fry, Rebecca, and there are no cats in my house because Bonnie is terrified of them.
Oh, that hurts me.
And that's all you need to know about us. Podcast over. Episode done. This is how I feel about this one. We're getting through it.
He wasn't here before you guys. You saw. He jumped up mid-theme song.
I heard it. I saw it. I was waving. I was like, hey, Ergo.
Oh, you can see it. Oh, okay.
Yeah, if you... maybe
we can't see
your
it.
view
No.
is different from mine.
Damn,
I
you've been
guess.
seeing me pick my nose the whole time, I
I
bet.
can see everything you're doing.
All of it. Oh, my goodness.
Awesome. Well, today we are back to an episode review. I loved our tropes episode last week. It was so much fun. But we are back back to the grind doing some episode reviews. He's so needy.
For those who are obviously listening and not watching, Ergo is full on cat mastering right now, all up in the mic, just taking over the show. And we love that. That's
I just
Ergo.
took a screenshot. That'll be our Instagram post.
Love it. I also appreciate the fact that you took my request for the thumbnail.
I did.
I really wanted that picture of Jack doing the la la la. I'm not listening.
That was literally the best part of the episode.
Yes, it was. So that leads us into, we're talking about season 3, episode 11. It's past and present. But before, do we have anything for the fry box? Maybe
We
just
have-
like
We have a few cryptic things, so we'll hop in the fry box real quick.
Short, cause we're 3 Fries short.
So, just pipe down. You're embarrassing me. I think I'm
Oh, God. Rebecca, do you want to leverage the crypticness? Because I don't know how far I would or would not take the crypticness. So I'm going to let you take the lead on this one to share.
Sure. I've done this for the companion too, and people get mad at me because it is going to stay incredibly vague and cryptic.
Super vague.
But we were approached by some people about talking about a thing that will be revealed hopefully very, very soon for you. But just know that it's very exciting. So Sarah and Cristina know more about the thing than I do at this point, which is really frustrating because I was the one that got messaged. But I don't know what else to say without giving things away, but it's super exciting. It's really cool that we were reached out to.
yeah, for sure.
I think I would say this about it. If you are obviously a loyal Stargate fan, as you are, if you are still listening to us 2 years later, this is something that we're really excited that will become in existence. It's something that will be welcomed by the fandom, and it's something we're excited to have been looped into. So stick around because the next few weeks more will come on this, but it's nice because there hasn't been newness of any sort of avenue to kind of latch onto, and this is a cool thing. This is a really, really cool thing. So I
Yes.
think that's fair.
Yeah, I think it is. And I'm so looking forward to actually being able to talk about it. Yeah, but that means we have some authority apparently. It's so weird.
People listen to us, which is wild.
The boggling thing. Like, I don't know why you guys are here, but I mean, it's obviously for
You're still
Rebecca's production skills and Sarah's amazing notes and my comedic dissociative patterns.
Your Danielness. Yeah. You've 2 years too. That was the other thing.
Yeah.
Cristina tagged us in a TikTok, which TikTok has started doing on this day. Like with the
I
latest
love it.
update. And 2 years ago, yesterday, it was the 15th, was when the infamous Sarah, just go ahead.
Free balling. We're free balling. Which was, I was kind of like projecting and be like, that's disgusting. But I was in the closet because I hate underwear. I think it's all known now. I fucking hate wearing underwear. I am out and proud about it. I hate it. Absolutely.
It's the worst.
It's the worst.
Like, I'm that person. This is like whatever at this point. I will only put on underwear when I don't want to wear pants. And like, that's all I want. Like, if I'm too hot and I need to be walking around the house, that's the only time I actually wear underwear is when like that's my only option. So like, I feel you on that one. I can't have the layers. It's too much.
It's too much. And like, listen, you got to vent that oven sometimes, ladies. Like, truly, like, let the girls breathe. Okay.
Like I also understand that like it doesn't like there is a need for it. And like I think, Sarah, we're probably in this like sensory anomaly where that like it's just there are some that struggle with it, but others it is necessary. Like
true.
It is,
Yeah,
we're not trying to tell you not to, do that.
I agree. Like, I know some people like it's a comfort thing, and depending on like a lot of different factors. So by all means, if you don't like, but if you have it, give it a try. All I say is I recommend it. Give it a try.
Everybody has their sensory things one way or another.
Yeah, our sensory thing is like we fucking hate it. So
some people are like, I can't do without it. So I'm on the fence. I'm like, some days not.
It's been years since I've had a wedgie and it's fantastic. Like
I'm so happy for you. I'm just
anyway, I'm sure our listeners will love to hear this.
While we're talking about this,
listeners that we have, I'm sure they will love to hear this about us.
Of course.
I mean, facts are facts. It's fine.
Yeah.
It's fine. We're adults here.
Yeah, we're all grown-ups.
So yeah. So all of that to say 2 years ago.
Look at Erky. Oh my God, you're so handsome.
Free balling became a thing. And it's crazy that it's been 2 years.
We've gotten so much better too. If you listen to some of our previous episodes, we were a hot mess. It's okay. We've grown so much. We've gotten so much better.
It's just like the first season of SG-1 itself.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. Also, if anybody that was at South Carolina Comic-Con is listening to this in the future, after I gave you our business card, welcome to the show. That's all I have to say.
Welcome.
I'm so excited to have you.
But
here.
like, if they started at the beginning, it'll be 2 years till they get here.
No, they'll binge it. It's fine.
Anyway. So, anything else for the fry box?
I think that's it.
No.
So just keep an eye out for the vague thing that
exciting
thing to make not vague soon.
It's very concrete. It's 100% happening at some point. So just like stay tuned.
Stay tuned. Okay, now on to.
Okay, so we're talking about season 3, episode 11, past and present. So lay it on me. How do you guys feel about this episode? Thoughts, prayers.
If you're a Daniel stan, I can see that you would have major problems with this episode. Because how long ago did Sharae die?
The last episode or two.
Correct.
Like literally, like she just died. The whole point of this is me, and then I'm getting this out of my system so we can go on. So if you are a Daniel stan and you don't remember this episode and you don't piece it all together, they did our boy so wrong because he's always this like stand-up guy, but he's actually like such a fucking prick in this scene of events because sorry, my cats are now deciding to totally engage here because I got very agitated. So they're coming to check on me.
Are you okay?
I know they are like checking on me. But it's just this whole thing starts because he's gonna go find his wife. That's the whole emotional drive. And then they forget about it and they're like, oh shit, we need to wrap that up, kill her off. And then the very next episode, Daniel is out there just wanting to fuck boy around. And I just don't think that's good for his character. Like, I don't think that's appropriate to the true nature of what his character is and what he stands for. And they didn't stay true to the overall, like, if he were to be a real person in real life, I just don't believe that that's how Daniel would have acted in such a way. And so I hate it. I also hate that they match two intellectuals and like be like, oh, well, they're two really smart people. They're just going to automatically get together. Like that doesn't always happen either. So anyway, more on that at the very end.
Yeah,
I'm gonna
like
keep my mouth
Sam and
shut.
Jack for all the haters and losers out there that are anti-Sam Jack. Like, look,
Yeah.
he's kind of dumb. She's real smart. I mean, he's smart in his own way. Like, anyway.
I
Sorry.
digress. Let's
Had to
get
get
into
that
it.
out.
Yeah, when we get
So-
to a certain part in this, I will add to your thing, Christina, about how like it's even obvious to the characters, basically.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I could not care less about this ham-fisted like bullshit romance that they try to shove in there. There were so many other things in this episode that were far more interesting that I
Mhm.
wanted to fucking learn about. And I'm like, you could have. I don't need that shitty like.
We didn't need a
bullshit.
love story.
I
No.
wanted to learn more about this world, about Kira. Like, I wanted to learn so much more about that. That would have been such a better story. And it's like, have some shitty romance for like 7 minutes. Like, we could have fit so much more.
Yeah, I honestly
stuff into that.
there seems to be no reason per the plot why
Yeah.
it had to have been a romance. Like we've had many examples of Daniel just being like decent to people
Mm-hmm.
when nobody else is wanting to be without it
Mhm.
turning into
Yeah.
like a romance situation. So
Yeah. So, like, and there are other episodes that have done it. Like, Need, for example. I think the romance benefit that storyline, if you want to call it romance,
Mhm.
because it was like integral to like the need. It was like he was addicted and like she was addicted to his addiction type of thing. So it kind of made
Yes.
sense to the storyline. This is just we already didn't care about Share because they didn't put enough and invest enough into that storyline for us to care about her. So it's like I truly extra don't give a fuck about this. Like I want
no.
more, and again, like we'll get into it more when we kind of break the episode down, but there were far more interesting things they could have done and they didn't, and that's where my frustration came from.
Agreed.
So you guys ready? Any other thoughts?
Nope.
no, let's get into
Let's
it.
just get into it. So the premise of this episode is SG-1 encounters an entire planet suffering from amnesia. The planet's leader, a woman named Kira, returns to Earth with SG-1 to find a cure. But even as Kira and Daniel develop a mutual attraction, SG-1 suspects she might not be who she appears to be. So that's like the little synopsis that you see when you play it on Netflix or whatever. So the episode opens with a B&E, as always. We're breaking and entering here on SG-1. They arrive, and it's like a storage unit where the Stargate and a bunch of other stuff are locked up.
Very
in-
Earth-like boxes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And this is another thing I'll just point out now about this episode. This planet is like kind of, it looks like they're in the middle of an industrial revolution. So I would equate it, I was trying to think like maybe to Earth in the 1930s-ish. Like there's factories, they have like all of their photographs, they have photographs, they have notebooks, they have books.
They
where
have
stuff is
blimps
printed.
in the
They have
air.
They have blimps. What was it, Hindenburg? God, we should tell them about that.
Yeah, you might not want to do that, guys.
So I would
Bad
equate it
idea.
to like maybe even like Jonas's planet, Kelowna. Like they were like
Yeah.
what, 1940s era.
Pretty similar.
So
yeah.
this is the first time we've kind of seen a planet that's at that level of advancement, which is super interesting. One of the things they could have focused on instead of some bullshit romance. I digress. Interesting thing number one that they dropped the ball on. So They hear people talking and approaching the warehouse. A man and a woman, whose name are Orner and Maris, enter, and SG-1 reveal themselves. Jack asks to speak to somebody in charge, and the man introduces himself as Orner, and he's kind of confused. He's like, "Where are your papers?" Like, he's trying to give this, like, I'm an authority, but no one's
Mhm.
buying that. And it's like, okay. So they explain that they're travelers, and they introduce themselves by name. And Orner even's like, he looks at Teal'c, he's like, "Who would give you a name like Teal'c?" And Teal'c is like, "My father, it means strength." And the woman, the poor lady doesn't even have a name. I had to look it up. Her name is Maris, but in the transcript, she's just woman. Maris is like, "You remember your father?" So Orner says if they remember their past, they would not have been here for the Vorlix, which we find out is some cataclysmic event that occurred on their planet that took away everything they know about themselves, all of their memories, and they can only remember events since the day of the Vorlix, but nothing before. And we have our opening credits. So right off the start, interesting premise.
I love, and this is where, like, to your point, Sarah, it's so frustrating because it's such an interesting setup. Like, I like the way, like, wait, there's like memory lost, how, the why, like, there's so
Mhm.
much other things, and this is not a storyline we typically see as often gone after, and yeah, it's just
Yeah. From what we've seen, it doesn't appear that the Goa'uld have interfered on this planet.
Mhm.
So, like, these people have I just saw a cat leap in the background.
Mhm.
um, so like again, this is kind of new and interesting, and we haven't gotten any of this yet. And what they choose to focus on kind of stinks out loud. So Sam is testing for any radioactivity, finds nothing out of the ordinary, and she's like, the Malp didn't see anything either. We get this cute, like, line from Jack. He's like, "Well, the Malp is worthless, but I'll trust you." I'm like, yeah, that's your girl. You got it. So Orner speaks up and he's like, there isn't anything to worry about. Kira says whatever caused this Vorlex has come and gone. It's been a year or so. The first days after the Vorlex, there was like all this panic and confusion. And the first thing he remembers was running in the street next to Maris, but he doesn't even know who she is. She doesn't remember her. He was just like near her when he kind of became conscious and aware. So Sam concludes that there must be some kind of mass amnesia effect, but doesn't know what could cause it on such a large scale. Like, she said she had a friend who was in the Gulf War who like had a head injury and she lost her memory. So it can happen, but she didn't know what could cause it on this mass scale. Orner says that their elders are missing as well. There's no old people, and they have no actual memory of the elders, but there's photographs of them that exist. So it's like, well, if there's these photographs in each home, they have to be somewhere.
Mhm.
And there's also no children. So they don't know if there ever any were children, or like there's no photographs of them, or like what's going on. Where are the kids?
Well, and I forget because they don't even, if they have no memories from before, like, they barely have a concept then of how children even have exist from. They wouldn't even have memories of like sex unless people had sex and all of a sudden got pregnant, and then they're like, oh, that's how the babies happen. But like, if their memories are gone, like, that's a fucked up way to come into
Well,
experiencing all that too.
and Maris makes a point. She's like, well, we had to have come from somewhere. There has to be children somewhere. Like, where did we come from? So they have like an idea of like some, like, we just don't have all the pieces. So Orner mentions children, or I'm sorry, he mentions Kira again. And if they have any information that could help, Kira would be the lady to go to. Like, she's the authority on a lot of things. She's the Minister of Health, Science, and Reconstructing in the I forget how to say it. Vias transitional government. So like they formed like this like temporary government to get shit back together. And they admit like we would be so lost without her. We need her. She's been integral in helping us get to where we are now. So SG-1 follow Orner and the woman, poor Maris, has no name.
No
And
name.
out of the warehouse onto what appears to be an industrial world, which again I would equate it to like 1930s US, like post-industrial revolution, but not like too advanced, somewhere in there. Orner and Maris do have this really cute dynamic where they're kind of bickering on each other like an old married couple. And you get the sense that they have like, are they like brother and sister? Because like from first watch you would be like they're definitely related, and like that's like a brother and sister like fighting, or like an old married couple or something. And she's like, she's kind of like cranky that he's talking up Kira. He's like, you don't have to flatter her, she's not even in the room. And he's like, just go home, I'll be home later. And she is like, well, don't expect dinner. And he's like, I never do. So like it's this very like, but it's kind of cute, like it's not mean or hateful or anything, it's just like this, you can tell that they're familiar with each other in a way that goes beyond what they know about each other. So SG-1 are led to a hospital, and we see Kira helping a woman who's having an allergic reaction. Since the Vorlex people who have had food allergies don't remember them.
Oh God.
Which is like, this is so fucking interesting to me. Like, wow, I never would have thought that. Like, this is so wipe the memory of an entire population, and like all this stuff would happen that you don't even think of, like this. People who don't remember what they're allergic to, or if they have any medical conditions, like say someone's diabetic, like
terrifying.
they wouldn't remember that. So Kira's grinding a powder in a wooden dish, and Sam is about to reach for her medkit, but Kira's medicine works and the woman can breathe again. So you can tell she's like pretty smart. She knows medicinal stuff. Daniel assumes Kira was a doctor, and she says that she does have the sense that she helped others before the Vorlex. Kira thanks Orner for bringing them to her, and it's kind of awkward, but he leaves them. And Kira says that Orner believes that they were husband and wife, and he wants to renew their relationship together without having any of their memories. Which again, it gets brought up later when Kira's talking to Daniel. She's like, relationships have kind of been taboo because we don't know each other. So like we don't, like, it alludes to like we don't want to accidentally have incest with people.
Yeah.
Which is like, again, like this is fascinating to me. Like, wow. So the fact that they've kind of like held off on physical contact, which I don't think a lot of people would do, honestly. Like they're smart enough to think like, hey, maybe we should hold off and not like bone down with anyone yet, because that could be your sister or that could be your mother.
Also, how would they have that? This is the part that also bothers me, is like, if you forgot everything, you would also forget that that's like not okay to do. Like you would forget.
Maybe,
that, like,
maybe not. People with amnesia, it's weird. It's weird what they do and don't remember about like things.
Yeah.
A lot of times it's personal information that they like don't.
But like
So
morality,
it's kind of like, I don't know, it's weird.
They can still read too. Like they can still read.
Yeah, they don't forget like everything, you know.
Kira's still like really smart. She knows all of her medicine stuff, but you're right. Like, where do you draw the line of like, what do we have them remember and what do we have them forget?
Yeah, because
technically
they could have set that line anywhere in this scenario, that because of it's not like head injury amnesia, it's some other kind of amnesia. So
yeah.
Well, I'm glad they kept it.
I'm glad that no incest happened, although since Game of Thrones, some people be rooting for that shit. You know, House of the Dragon, kind of. Anyway. So Kira leads them to a library of books and documents, and she explains that the people are technically in good health, but without all their memories, the production and agriculture have kind of stopped on Vias, and when winter comes, they're going to be screwed. So they have to figure out what happened and how to fix it so like they can get society back up and running. So now we have plot dump number 1. Kira, O'Neill, Carter, Daniel, Teal'c.
I'll do Carter and Teal'c because they don't have a lot.
I'll do O'Neill.
All right, and then I can do Kira and Daniel.
Excellent. Let's go.
All right. So Kira says, whatever agent that caused the Vorlex is gone, but its effects were pandemic. If you know who you are, then you cannot be of this world.
Oh, well, you know that big round thing that we got stashed in the warehouse down the road?
So it is a transportation device.
We call it a Stargate.
Stargate, yes. Dr. Zervis mentioned that word in his research. Though I had given up hope of ever finding this Dr. Zervis amongst our people, his papers have taught me so much. Here, she reads from the book. Our visitor claims to have come to Vias from beyond the stars themselves. Though I still cannot comprehend the science behind the Stargate device she claims to have used. And it says, I have studied this device since, but I have been unable to activate it. And then Daniel says, Kira, could you go back to the part about the visitor again? Kira says, she is mentioned many times in the archive.
What can you tell us about her?
That she was somewhat of an apothecary and that she did not survive the Vorlex.
How do you know that?
The bodies of an elder woman and man were discovered some days later in a building destroyed by explosion. The only remains of our elders we have found. We deduce the male must have been Dr. Zervis, and the female matches what little description he gave in his notes of the visitor.
What is the name of this elder woman?
It is mentioned here. Yes, she calls herself Linnea.
Dun dun dun.
So, amnesia check, as Jack says later in the episode. So this was super interesting because I was fully expecting the whole previously on Stargate SG-1, but they didn't do that in this episode.
Mm-hmm.
And fun fact, I'll burn it real quick. They purposely did it that way because they did not want to like spoil it that it was going to be Linnea.
Oh, yeah.
Or spoil the surprise, which is super cool. I'm glad they didn't. And they give us enough in the episode to kind of jog your memory of, okay, yeah, Hadante, Linnea, Destroyer of Worlds, like all of that stuff, so that Destroyer of Worlds. So, amnesia check. Linnea is from season 2, episode 3, Prisoners. She was imprisoned on Hadante for being a war criminal and creating a plague. The plague was designed to be one that she herself could not get. Half the planet's population died, and Linnea promised to save the rest, earning her the name Destroyer of Worlds. She tricked SG-1 and they helped her escape Hadante. When she came to Earth, she stole information they had about the Stargate network and gate addresses and escaped, leaving behind the message, all debts have now been paid. So there's your refresher on Linnea. So did they find where she escaped to? This is super fucking cool, guys, because a lot of the time we're just left with our asses out. Like, well, are we gonna get closure? Maybe, who knows? This is like the follow-up to that episode, which we are now going to get closure on, which is super cool. Again, way more interesting things they could have focused on than some shitty romance.
I mean,
so Doc Fraser arrives on the planet to help run tests and find out why or how.
She always looks so bizarre when she arrives on a planet. It's just like, where's your lab coat, Doc Fraser? Like, I love it though.
She does look out of place. She's like super short too, so it's like little baby. No, but yeah. So she's trying to help. She's trying to help them figure this out. Back in the library, Daniel and Kira are researching the archives to see what they can learn. So we have it's Daniel and Kira.
All right, one of you has to take over Kira because I'll be Daniel.
You got that, Rebecca.
I'll be Kira. Yeah.
Excellent.
I keep finding references to something called, how do we pronounce this?
Dargal.
Dargal.
Yes, I found Dargal was a chemical once used as a pesticide. It seems to have had a significant impact on the environment and has since been banned.
Yeah, we had a similar problem on my world with a chemical called DDT. It built up in the food chain until entire species were threatened.
Yes, I first believed this Dargal was related to our loss of memory much the same way, but there's little evidence of it. I found residue only in the bodies of those who have died since the Vorlex. And she gets quiet and she's looking at a picture of an elderly man. Sometimes the images of people in the archives look familiar to me. I wonder if I knew this person or that person. There are still so many questions, like why are there no images of children and where have our elders gone? Through your Stargate, perhaps?
Well, I suppose it's possible your people foresaw a disaster coming and sent the most helpless to safety.
No, Daniel, whatever happened quickly without warning.
How do you know that? Because if you saw a disaster coming, you would have left yourselves a note.
And they're like,
Yeah, they're like flirty, like, oh, haha, they're like smiling at each other. She's like,
cut
how
to
would
like
you
the
know that?
cut to the other side of this long table where everyone else is, and they're all like,
Oh, gross.
Yeah.
the fuck?
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
it's like you didn't even know they were in the same room, and all of a sudden,
Yeah.
like it cuts to a wide, and there's like Teal, Carter, and O'Neill sitting at the other end of the table, like, what?
You're disturbing our study group, guys.
God, it's so.
This is a library.
Oh.
So yeah, we cue the unnecessary romance. But this, again, super interesting, a really interesting plot. There was this chemical, this like pesticide that they used. It could be related to the memory loss, but they don't really have a lot of evidence of it. What's going on? Is this related? So Jack poses the thought that, hey, amnesia does not really line up with Linnea's track record of being a destroyer of worlds. But Sam points out in a really messed up way, it does, because Kira said their society is on the verge of collapse. And Teal'c is like, perhaps she's experimenting with other ways to destroy worlds. And Jack is like, variety being the spice of life and all. But I don't know, like, if you're really crazy like that, and it's like, how can I, like...
You might get bored. Like, you probably
Yeah.
do want to try different things.
Like, I've tried, like, plague. Let's try something else. Like, spice it up. Let's see what happens. Experiment here, which has kind of happened in our history. So it's not really outside the realm of possibility.
No.
Anyway, plot dump part whatever we're on. We got Teal'c, O'Neill, and Carter. It's just a little bit.
Wait, hold on.
Oh wait, no, never mind.
No,
I'm
I was
sorry.
like, what?
So-
what?
But Sam says, like, hey, it's our responsibility. Like, we fucked up here. We're
Mhm.
responsible. We let Linnea out. Like, we need to do something about it. So Daniel gives Kira the scoop on Linnea to be like, what happened, how they accidentally let her out, like what her whole deal was. And then as Sam is looking through a shelf, she finds a small notebook in the very back, and it's Linnea's diary. She remembers seeing it. So Janet enters the library. She confirms what Sam suspected. The best way they can figure out the rest would to have volunteers come back to Earth to work on a cure. Kira, Orner, and Maris volunteer.
I like how Doc Frazier like goes through like the whole explanation of, because she knows Jack's gonna be like, no, that's not a good idea. So she's like, so I could spend a couple of weeks setting up my entire lab on this planet,
Yes.
and in order to have all the things, blah 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 blah, or you could just let him come back with us. She's
Yeah.
like, she's already anticipated all of his pushback.
Oh, she knows.
It's like, listen, let's make it easy for all of us here.
Mhm.
And it does, it works out. So they head back to Earth. Kira sees that Orner is like scared when they're going through the gate. He's kind of like a little apprehensive. And she's like there to reassure him, which kind of cements the fact that like this woman has a lot of pull. She has a lot of power. She's really charismatic. She's persuasive. She's like this natural leader that people follow. Which it's like she's this really, not to be like, it's subversive because like she's this really soft-spoken, kind, like pretty young lady, and it's like you would not expect her to have that kind of pull. Like people in times of crises don't typically look to, at least if we're looking at like outward appearances, they don't typically look to like those type of people. So it's interesting that, I mean, she's proven that she has a lot of knowledge and can help people medically with like medicines and whatnot. So like she's proven that she's smart, but I kind of wonder like what those first days were like for her to like gain their trust, because nobody remembered anything. So it must have been really hectic and crazy for a while there.
I do think though that there's a case to be made that in times of like just pure chaos, and that an empathetic soul, a caring and nurturing soul, is very much a source of gravity for others to want to come to. And if she's just this, like, as we know, this like source of just pure like energy suck, like it makes sense, but she does it through this like calm, motherly, nurturing, because people are out of their minds and they want that comfort. And so by giving that, then people start to trust, start to believe, versus like a militant would just further agitate and create aggression and solace. So I think as a whole, people would probably in that time, I could see it doesn't seem far-fetched to like go to the nurturing for a bit.
Yeah. No, it totally makes sense. Like now that you put it like that, like the mother figure, like
Mm-hmm.
when you need help, like who's gonna get shit done? Moms be on top of that shit. Like that motherly figure is really like they really like get shit done. So again, like you have this kind of cute moment between Orner and Maris, and he's like, "Did I make it? Am I all in one piece?" And she's like, "Yes, you're in one skinny little piece." A little dweeb, like there. It's just like this constant like bickering type of
Love it.
relationship. Kira is again like she goes right up to Hammond and she's like, on behalf of the transitional government of Virus, we thank you for your like she is putting herself out there. Like she's making herself that leader, that like person of contact. So now we have plot dump number 2. So it's Frasier, Daniel, Kira,
I think we're on 3 at this point.
Merritt.
Mm-hmm.
Is it? Yeah, 3. I've lost count.
It's just a lot of plot dump.
Yeah.
It is. Um,
I'll do like Maris. There's like one for her.
I'll be Doc Frazier.
okay, I can just do the Daniel Kira stuff again.
Cool.
Now, if you look at the blue areas, you'll see that you all have the same identical obstructions in your temporal lobes and hippocampus sections of your brain. I'm not exactly sure what it is, except it's some sort of residue between the synapses. So it's possible your old memories are intact, they're just not accessible.
So the memories are just blocked.
Literally, yes.
Kira says, and does this material match the Dargle residue that I gave you?
We should be able to confirm that very quickly. And if it can be dissolved or removed without damaging the neurons,
Then we may be cured.
We need only to find the right medicine to dissolve the residue.
that is much more difficult than it sounds.
Well, then we should get started immediately.
Kira, we've already been at it for a long time and I still have some tests to run, so
And Daniel says to Kira, so why don't I give you the 50-cent tour?
yes.
So another thing that I picked up was that like Kira was super like she had that go-getter attitude, like let's do it, let's go.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like Janet was kind of looking at her like chill, like slow your roll.
Mm-hmm.
We're doing this right now. Like
It's like she still has those indications of like an just like a inpatient scientist who doesn't worry about their test subjects. Like that's what it still feels like.
Yeah. So Daniel gives her like this basic tour of the facility and brings her to her quarters where there's some like clothes she can change into and a bed. And it's clear that there's some tension between her and Daniel, which I truly could not care less about. But here we go again. She explains that since their memory loss, relationships and close contact have been taboo because no one wants to bang their mom or sister or brother or whatever. But since Daniel's not from Vias, it's like they can bone down. Let's go, guys. But Daniel makes an attempt, barely, to turn her down by playing the dead wife card, which again, we don't even care about because who's Sharae? She thought a pen was magic. That was her personality trait. So he immediately gives up and Kira just leans in to kiss him. Are you okay, Rebecca?
No. Good callback. Yeah, continue.
And I kind of go off here a little bit too, but she explains that she had to take the opportunity now because if she regains her memory and finds out she's married to somebody else, she would have never had the opportunity to do it again. And then Daniel kisses her back and I'm like, boo, tomato, boo.
That was the other part I'd already read ahead, so boo, tomato, boo.
Yeah, put that on a shirt.
Y'all should go. I should be on a shirt. Y'all should go read these notes on Patreon. It's pretty amazing.
Oh, it's just so like read while you listen because then you can kind of see them come to life.
If we don't want to be here for like 4 hours. We should just keep going because my commentary in this pace, in this.
I wanna hear it.
Your
Go off,
drinking
girl.
your drinking of the wine said so much.
I literally screamed at my TV. I was like, "Boo!"
Like, okay. Because like I was saying in the beginning, his character is, if you were a real person, like, it just sucks because this is the first time we see that, like, behind the veil of like, oh, he's not necessarily that good guy. That fucking sucks. Like, because up until this point, there may be flaws, there may be places where like maybe the ADHD forgetfulness, out of sight, out of mind. Like, he's like, his wife's not there, and like it's just his mission has changed. But the like, your wife just died. And it took like that for you to just give in. No, nothing. Like, such a fucking dick move. And I get it. And I can't speak for like people in grieving processes, because I'm sure many people go through that where they're just still like numb or not processing or going through it. But what a dick move of the writers and the show runners to write it that way. Because like you're saying, like, frigid character, just get rid of her. Just get rid of her and let's move on, and like let's make him a little playboy, and like let's make it a little bit more interesting, because like we're over this like sappy like love story scenario. And so it angers me that they felt that necessary, and that they did it one, knowing who the character actually is. They know who they wrote this to happen with. And Daniel just, I don't know. I don't want to go on a rant about it, but it disappoints me. Do better.
They're not making me care. Like,
No.
I do not care. They are doing a bad job of convincing me to care. Like, we've already established that none of us really gave a shit about like what happened to Share, because we were so not invested in the character.
It was literally the next episode, and it aired literally the next week. So it was only 7 days apart.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And it serves nothing to the story. There is so much more interesting things they could be doing, and this is not one of them at all. Like, it's not.
No.
So, yes, that was from Broke a Divide. Thank you, Nell. Yeah.
Which, okay, but as a good callback to that, it's an interesting thought process, because when he did get, obviously, like, back to the caveman style, like, just letting it all go, like, I mean, at his core, he's just a thirsty man. He just wants to get it. Like, that's just who he is. It's disappointing.
For real. So, plot dump number 4. This is between Carter and O'Neill. And
I love this conversation so much.
Do you want to read O'Neill, Christina?
Yeah, I can do that.
Go for it.
All right. To Carter. You were looking for me?
Yes, sir. I've been studying Linnea's journals. Apparently, she found a link between Dargol, it's a chemical pesticide the Vians use, and longevity.
What's a bug spray have to do with longevity?
Well, it seems it was having the effect of slowing the aging process. Not in an extreme way, but certainly significant enough.
Lucky bugs.
Yes and no. They stopped using it over 20 years ago. It was adversely affecting their fertility rate.
So no kids.
Right. The point is, Linnea was trying to enhance the life-extending properties of Dargol to create a sort of fountain of youth.
She was trying to make herself young again.
According to her last entry, Linnea was about to conduct some controlled lab experiments using an intensely concentrated form of Dargol on 2 Vian elders, a male and a female.
And
that's where her journal ends.
Ah, the Vorlex, perhaps.
Exactly. Now, what if there really was a laboratory accident? Some massive chain reaction of enhanced Dargol gas that caught even Linnea by surprise. The entire population becomes young again overnight. You realize, of course, the implications.
He's nodding. No.
Their elders aren't missing, sir. They are the elders. The fountain of youth worked. The amnesia was simply a side effect Linnea didn't see coming.
Ah, wait a minute. Linnea is dead, right?
Well, if those 2 bodies that Kira found really were the Vian elders that Linnea was experimenting on...
Don't say it, Carter.
Sir, we wouldn't recognize her even if she walked in the front door.
Don't.
Sir,
La, 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 la.
She has the knowledge of chemistry, the medical skills, and then she pulls his hands away from his ears. I think we at least have to face the possibility that Kira is Linnea.
So many
Awkward.
funny things.
La la
I
la la
love-
la 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 la.
I love this scene so much. It breaks it down even so this chemical Dargal, okay, it was used to kill bugs, but then they found out that like actually it's making the bugs live longer and it's fucking with their fertility. So maybe that's why there's no children around. They can't have kids. So also they're like, okay, well if it's making the bugs live longer, like maybe it can help people live longer. So that's what they kind of assume. Okay, Linnea is like up to her old ways again with chemical warfare and shit or whatever. Like, is that her? Did she do that? Is Kira Linnea? She's got all the knowledge. Also, the fact that Sam feels comfortable enough, like within their relationship, to reach up and grab his arms and like pull them down and be like, "You shut up and listen to me right now. Stop it. Knock it off." It was so cute. Don't
Best
wanna hear it
scene.
otherwise.
Best scene.
Yeah. So, cut to the briefing room. Daniel is straight up in denial that his new GF could be a bloodthirsty war criminal, and he asks about the body of the old woman they found in the explosion that matched Linnea's description. Fraser confirms that Kira's DNA is a match to Linnea's, irrefutable proof. So here's some more. We got Daniel O'Neill, Teal'c, and that's it.
Y'all take your standards. I'll do Teal'c.
Okay.
Because Danny Boy is pissed. Irrefutable. Okay, so let's just lock her up, throw away the key then. Or better yet, we could send her back to the prison where we found her.
Linnea, Daniel. She used to be Linnea. We're lucky she didn't knock us off the first time around.
Let me ask you a question. Who would you trust with your life more than anyone else in this world? Don't worry. I won't be offended if you don't pick me. Could it be Teal'c?
Sure.
Teal'c, just to refresh my memory, what was your previous occupation?
I gotta raise my eyebrow for this one. I was the first prime of Apophis.
Right. Did a few nasty things back then, huh?
We see the subtle point you're trying to make.
No, you don't. She is not the same person. She is not who she used to be. Let's not condemn her for who she may have been in the past.
I've got lots of thoughts on that.
Somebody's riled up.
I was at Adam's house today, as you saw by all of my farm videos that I sent you.
Yeah.
And I was like sitting in the living room and they were talking about, they're like, what do you think, Sarah? I'm like, I'm sorry, I'm researching Operation Paperclip. I'm researching things, BRB, but we'll get to it, I promise. So they decide to keep her confined to her quarters until they can figure out what's going on. And Daniel tells Kira that she needs to stay quarantined just for the time being, but like he'll visit her. He's being vague because he is still in denial. Jack and Hammond enter the lab where Sam and Janet are working, though, and it's a glum mood. So we got O'Neill, Fraser, Hammond, Carter. I'll get the O'Neill. And
I'll take Hammond on this one.
Go to town with the hammy.
I need a hammy.
I guess I'll be Fraser and Carter. I'll do all the techno babble.
So to set the scene, Hammond and Jack go in, and like Sam's like rubbing her forehead, and Janet's like working out a crick in her neck. They're just like, oh, this fucking sucks. Like, so he goes into the room and he's like, oh my, there's a distinct lack of optimism in this room here.
Fraser says, we've been working around the clock trying to dissolve a chemical inside the brain without harming the surrounding tissue, and it is not easy.
What have you learned?
Carter says, that it could take years, sir.
Suffice it to say, we don't have that much time.
Fraser, unless we get help.
From?
Kira, sir.
Absolutely not.
Fraser, sir, I don't like the idea any more than you, but without her knowledge of biochemistry, especially of the residual Dargal, I don't know if we can reverse the effects of the amnesia in time to prevent a catastrophe on Vias.
Doctor, you're asking me to allow a known homicidal maniac to work with potentially lethal substances.
Yes, sir. But with all due respect, Daniel may be right. Kira may be an entirely different person than Linnea, without the memories that made her the person she was.
Excuse me, amnesia check. Destroyer of worlds.
Carter, Carter says, "Sir, Kira wants nothing more than to help her people. Now, as long as she doesn't take the antidote that she comes up with," Fraser says, "there won't be an antidote without her help. So," and then Carter says, "So, it's up to you, sirs."
And then O'Neill's, I think a precaution or two might be in order, sir.
You're right about that, Colonel.
So Jack, like, for his lack of involvement, like, in this episode, he's got some really funny parts. The whole la la la
La, 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 la.
la.
That's the
So-
way all of us felt about
Yeah.
huge scenes in this episode. La 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 la. If you just ignore the 7 minutes of love story.
Tomato,
that's
tomato.
like, boo, tomato, tomato, boo.
So they allow Kira to help develop the cure. She works with the chemicals that could possibly become explosive. And Janet's even like, hold, slow down, girl. But she knows the exact ratio to use to keep it safe. And Sam, like, points out to Daniel, she's like, she is so far ahead of us. It's frightening. So Kira volunteers to be the first one they tested on. They reasoned that if it doesn't work, they'll need her to help try again. Trying to be like, no, girl, like, not you first, like, because also they don't want her to remember she's a war criminal.
Not you ever.
Never.
So Orner volunteers, and both Kira and Maris are unhappy about it. But Orner's like, it's fine, like, it's okay. I want to try. So it doesn't work. He seizes and flatlines, which is really scary, and they are able to bring him back, but he still has no memory, so it didn't work.
Side note, the mere 5 chest compressions that Janet did on him were very good. They
Not
looked
like the
good
Abyss.
for
pretty
her.
good.
Good
She
for
didn't
her.
punch
But
him in
then,
the
she
face.
only, but then she only did 5, and then like stood back and waited for the paddles to charge, which take forever. So like, why are you getting off the chest, lady? Like, keep going. But
Well, she didn't punch him in the face.
she did not punch him in the face.
I'm still
That doesn't work in CPR, everyone. Please don't try
No.
that.
No.
I had someone ask me one time if they found an overdose person, if they didn't have Narcan, they heard that they should just slap them in the face. I said, no, that's not how that works.
No,
No.
bad idea.
no.
Bad.
no. Yeah.
Anyway, continue.
So the effect should have been immediate, and Kira's like, we have to try again. Like, right now, let's try. Let's keep going. And Janet's like, we need a break here. Like, can we chill? Like, put the brakes on. So Daniel escorts Kira back to her room, and I don't know what I meant to say, but she confronts him. Kira confronts him. So do you guys want to read that?
Sure. Sorry, everyone. My allergies are like awful. So
How dare you?
just keep having to clear my throat over and over again. Yes, Nell. Take note.
Don't slap cardiac.
patients in the face.
Do not take CPR tips from James Cameron.
Don't do that. All right.
Nope.
All right. Here's Kira. They believe I am Linnea.
Yes.
Do you?
The Vorlex made the population of Vias younger, years younger. You couldn't find the elders because you were the elders.
How can you believe that?
There is a test. It compares what we call DNA. It proves that you and Linnea are the same person.
Well, the test is wrong. I'm not Linnea.
No, you're not. You're Kira now.
He
Kira's
touches her wig.
This is so painful.
Curly
Kira-
blonde locks.
This is so painful.
Uh-huh.
Kira's wonderful, and as long as you remain that person, that will never change.
You're telling me that I will never be able to take the antidote. I would never harm anyone, Daniel. Do you believe me?
I do.
Boo, tomato.
Tomato, boo.
No.
So
Drink
they
for that
work
one.
out another cure, and this time Fraser thinks it would be best if Kira left the room while they like finish things up. And when no one is looking, Kira snags 2 vials.
Of course she does.
They Have they learned anything from the first time
No.
Linnea
She
was
had already
around?
taken like the microscope slide, and like
Yeah.
nothing came of that.
Oh yeah.
She took it, and it even looked like Teal'c saw her, like it's like her closed fist or whatever. They kind of implied that he saw her, but then nothing ever happened with it. It was really weird.
Kleptomaniac,
Mhm.
among other maniac things that they are, like homicidal.
I guess maybe it could have been showing that like her Linnea, like science, like I want to keep looking at all this stuff and they're kicking me
Yeah.
out of the lab, maybe, but like it was weird that they just nothing ever came of that. And then she had to steal 2 more things, to like,
Yeah.
well, wait, no, the slide. Okay, no, the slide was apparently had the cure on it. So apparently she used that. But it was just like
Maybe
literally
like a
a
microscopic dose
microscope.
of it.
Maybe.
Yeah.
It was weird.
Maybe just a little bit.
Uh-huh.
Because she kind of does regain some memory, like a shadow, maybe a little bit. So they test it again. Orner begins to seize, but not as badly as he did before. He sits up and reveals his real name is Nodal, and he is married to Leal, who is Maris. They have been married for 43 years, hence the constant bickering, which I love.
They really are an old couple.
Yeah, they are. And Orner has not met Kira before the Forlex. He doesn't know who she is, even from the before time. So Kira tells Orner / Nodal, whatever you want to call him now, that she can't take the antidote and she leaves the infirmary. She's like, they'll explain it to you. So Daniel follows her. He's kind of like trying to reassure her, like, for all that you've done, they're going to be so grateful. And she drops, all debts have now been paid.
Ooh.
And he kind of turns and walks away. But then he realizes and he turns back and confronts her. Do you guys want to read this?
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
Go for it.
You've taken the antidote.
Leave, Daniel.
He like pushes her.
He's
Whatever.
holding 2 vials in each hand, one in each hand.
You said all debts have now been paid. That was the message Linnea left behind.
Was it?
Did you take the antidote?
I had to know, Daniel. I didn't believe you.
Kira.
I'm not Kira, am I? I'm the murderer that you said I was.
No, you're not.
And she's holding up those vials. I need only smash these vials together to create a poisonous gas that will fill this room. Now, I only want to harm myself. I don't want you to be here. Please.
Then you'll have to kill me too, because I'm staying. Oh, for fuck's sake.
Just wait. So back in the infirmary, Janet notices the missing vials. Jack and Teal'c book it to the room. Would you like to keep reading, Cristina? I can take over.
Nope, I got it.
Okay.
You don't understand. There's a part of me that cares for you, Daniel, more than I've cared for anyone I've ever known. But there's another part of me that would gladly watch you die. There are 2 people inside of me, and one of them is a monster. In time, she will win.
You won't hurt me because there's another way, Kira.
I'm not her.
No, you're not, but you can be her again. You can't forget. All you have to do is forget.
Where's my tomatoes?
Tomato. Boom. Wait. Here's your tomatoes, Sarah.
Thank you, Nell. They could have had this conversation without the underlying romance. It could have been him just being a friend to her. 100%.
He's had these conversations with other people, not in a relationship, about how they need, they don't need to die. You don't need to take these extremes. He's had many of these conversations.
His conversation with Jack in Need.
Yeah.
When, like, what an amazing moment. Like, healthy masculinity, men crying and holding each other and hugging. Like, it could have been that. But they had to, like, ham fist this romance that nobody cares about in there. And, like, it could have been so much more interesting because we still kind of don't really know who Linnea is and, like, what her deal was. We just kind of have the secondhand knowledge of, like, she created this plague, but, like, was it by accident or, like, what was the real story? And now the fact that she's saying, there's a part of me that would gladly watch you die. That's like psychopathic shit right there. She's like,
You think?
I like watching people get murdered and tortured. Like, so I wish we could have learned more about Linnea and, like, her backstory instead of this bullshit. So, cut to the infirmary. Kira blinks. She looks around. She's all dazed and confused. Daniel tells her she was a visitor here, and now it's time for her to go home. So, Layal is like, now that she's with her husband again, she's like, did she do this willingly? And essentially, yes, they were able to enhance the Dargal to make her forget again and wipe her memory again. And she is no longer, like, her memory is gone. So Linnea is no more. So they think. So Nodal is like, we understand you lost your memory. You're a great leader to our people. You're welcome to come home with us. And they turn and head up the ramp. Kira turns to Daniel and she's like, I sense that we've known each other before my memory was lost, did we? And thankfully, Daniel is like, no, sorry, like, goodbye. So she walks up the ramp, taking Nodal's hand. Just before she steps into the event horizon, she turns and smiles at Daniel before disappearing. Stop.
This goes into one of those tropes that about like characters that they should have killed but didn't. Like,
Or
they should
done
have
something.
killed her.
I'm not satisfied with because it's like, how do you know that she's okay? Her memory is gone, but like, how do you know that she's still not sadistic at heart and like
No,
wants
it's like
to?
they
She's gonna
just
like,
let her walk through the Stargate one more time. Like,
yeah. So I like that we got a follow up. I know that we've been talking shit like the past hour, but it's mostly because of like the romance that I don't care about. And I wanted to learn more about this planet that's like in this industrial era and this chemical that, like, you can't tell me they would not be interested in a fountain of youth chemical, like manufacture that shit, like we're making Alzheimer's drugs or whatever. Like, you can't tell me they wouldn't be interested in that for Earth. And then not only the fact that they had a fountain of youth that worked, but also Linnea is there and like how she fits into this whole thing. And like, there was so many more interesting things they could have explored and they didn't. And
I have a
bummed.
question real quick before we go into your notes.
Yeah.
Rebecca, did you happen to go see the Fountain of Youth when you went to St. Augustine?
No, I
Okay,
didn't.
because if anyone ever goes there, it's the nastiest fucking water. Do not take a drink of it. It's absolutely.
I saw where it was, like drove by it, and I was like, that looks
It
like...
is the most upsetting place to go. So please don't go. I went there. I lived obviously up like right by there for 10, 12 years. And I finally went a couple years ago with my parents because they, I don't know, thought it would be a good cultural experience for my daughter. When I tell you that there was a reenactment of the savages and the cannons that they would throw at them, and here marks the first Catholic like baptism, and I'm like, get me the fuck out of here. The Fountain of Youth is just, don't go there. Don't go there. It is so disturbing.
I went to the
glorified
fort.
as this like
I enjoyed the
place.
fort, but
Yeah, the fort is cool.
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry.
I'm glad I didn't bother to go then.
No, don't.
Colonialism and capitalism combined into one terrible thing.
Our powers combined.
Like, it's like, Sarah. So St. Augustine in and of itself is a really cool, beautiful place. It has
This
a
is
lot
Florida,
of rich
right?
history. There's so much rich history, so much to it. But you go, and the Fountain of Youth has this like Disneyland-sized sign on it. That's just like,
I saw the sign, and I was like,
it is like
it's off-putting. It really is kind of
it's
off-putting from the like outside even.
Yeah, like in the middle of like Southern plantation style, like Spanish moss trees and like settings and it's weird. Anyway, so if anyone's listening and happens to ever have that opportunity, I'm going to tell you right now, if you are listening to us, you're probably in the alignment that that's just not a good place to go. So just don't go support them. Anyway, continue on.
On another note, and then we'll give back to like this, but I went to it was a Marine museum, I think in like Virginia or West Virginia, somewhere down that way. Whoa. And super historical, super interesting, but it was like the history of the Marines, and like it kind of outlined every battle of the US and like how they were involved. And it just like fucking bummed me out because I know what emotions they're trying to evoke, And I wasn't fucking buying it because I was like, this fucking sucks, especially when you look at like the wars with the Native Americans, because I'm like, fuck this. Like, they're trying to paint this picture of like, I, absolutely not. I don't. We terrorized them. They were terrorized by
Mhm.
the US government. Like,
Mhm.
it was awful. And then like you get to Vietnam and Korea, and it just made me fucking sad because it's like all of these people lost their lives for a government that didn't give a fuck about them. And
Mhm.
it bummed me out. Like, I know they were trying to like elicit something like a patriotic, like, oh, the men and women, and like, yeah, I absolutely respect people who choose to go into the
Yeah.
military.
Oh
But
yeah.
it's not the people on a personal level, it's the overall like power behind it of like,
Yeah,
anyway, yeah.
I think that's an important distinction to be made because I am absolutely for those who join in the military for the right reasons that are like try to do good and be that protector. I don't know. Like, I've had this discussion with my sister because she's officer in the army, not in it anymore, but like about why she did and what happened and the conviction that led there. And people join for many, many different reasons. But to your point, at the top of that chain of command is a lot of corruption and a lot of things that just are not great. And people just don't realize we've been the villain in a lot of countries' stories, and they don't tell us that because we grew up with American propaganda. Like, thankfully, like, so writer school, they are teaching a project about the missions out here in California, and this is one of the first years where they've actually said, instead of teaching it as like a here's what happened and they came in and they did the missions, they converted the indigenous, they're like, you know what, we're going to have you do, these are fourth graders, we're going to have you research about what happened and let you do an opinion piece on how you think about, was that right or wrong? We're going to go vision the mission. We want you to tell us, how did that make you feel? And I'm like, this generation is going to like save us, because it's like they talk about it in a different lens. And like, but
Yeah.
we all had the propaganda. We all had the like force down our throat, America can do no wrong.
Mhm.
Anyway.
No, yeah, totally. And I was talking to Adam too, and just like the way that veterans are treated is like disgraceful. They have to like go through all these hoops just to get medical care. And I'm thinking, like, if you were ever sent on a tour like in Afghanistan, or you should never in your entire life ever have to worry about healthcare ever again. Never.
No,
It
but
should
you do.
never be a problem. But they have to jump. It's disgraceful, and we can do better.
I would like at some point, if any of our listeners are military or ex, like to come on and have I would love a discussion on this, because none of us are military or have that expertise, but we have opinions, of course, on it. And I would love discourse and conversation with someone truly like from a perspective, and if you, I don't know, maybe we can offline about this, but I just think it would be let me not have my ADHD brain go a lot of different places. We talk a lot about our opinions on the military and like the do's and don'ts, the goods, the bads. And like, we are lucky we have Adam that's like been able to like chime in. And I'd love to have like Adam and anyone else who might be open to just a conversation about like military portrayal in sci-fi and in these shows and like just in life in general. It would be a very interesting conversation that like I would love to have at some point with someone.
So, I don't know if you've watched it yet, but Lady Night the Brave on YouTube did like a
Mm-mm.
retrospective on Stargate, and she has a whole section about the military industrial complex.
Oh, I didn't.
And Stargate is basically military propaganda. It was reviewed and approved by the military.
Yeah.
And the fact that like they congratulated Stargate because the show is helping recruitment's up, guys, you're doing great. So I have a lot of like conflicting opinions about that, how it was used for like propaganda, and the fact that the military is so involved in it, it gives them access to certain equipment, uniforms, locations, etc. And without their seal of approval, they would not have that access. So if you think about it, a lot of movies and TV shows that have the military as a central point of it typically have their approval in some way, shape, or form. Therefore, it automatically makes it like propaganda. If the military is approving of it, then obviously if it's not done, if it's distasteful to them or whatever, like they would have to change it. And I know that there were some jokes they had to remove from Stargate. I think it was about like Area 51 or something. Like they removed that because the military didn't approve of it. So I highly recommend to watch that video. It's like an hour long if you love a documentary. She does fantastic. So that's anyway. Back to this episode.
I was about to say, shall I show you the path that we just took? Because it was pretty epic.
I love it.
Fountain of Youth. Really don't go there.
Military history.
Other museum probably you shouldn't go to. And then it just went, it was great. It was so fun to watch.
So back to this episode. This is the first episode set in an alien industrial setting. And the first to show an alien modern society. So super interesting. I would have loved to see more of that. Oh, look at the kitty.
Oh my gosh.
So is he a boy? I can't remember.
Yeah,
Scary's the girl.
This is
Tuck's the
Tux.
boy.
Yep,
He's very handsome.
he is. Continue.
So Megan Lech. I'm not sure how to pronounce the last name. I don't sound it out very well. So she was best known. Here's an X-Files guy. Here's an crossover. Her role is Samantha Mulder, the younger sister of Special Agent Fox Mulder, who was abducted by aliens on the X-Files.
I had to look her up because I was like, I've seen her in other things. I know I have. And it was the X-Files. That was totally where it was from.
I had that moment when I was watching Mandalorian with Adam earlier today because I thought the one guy, I was like, is that Reading Rainbow, LeVar Burton? And it's like, no, but he's super familiar. I'm like, oh, it's Chubbs from Happy Gilmore. That's who it is.
Reading Rainbow, LeVar Burton can be seen on season 3 of Picard, airing right now.
Take a look. It's in a book.
Wait, are you talking about the guy that voices Jar Jar Binks that got his redemption?
No,
Someone different.
but he did get his redemption.
Yeah.
But
I
was gonna say I didn't think that guy
the
was
actors in Mandalorian.
Okay. I was gonna say
It's
Anyway,
Chubbs from
continue.
Happy Gilmore. So
is
additionally,
it Carl Weathers?
yes, that's yep. So
sorry,
yeah,
I wasn't
very
thinking
fast.
Happy Gilmore. I was thinking of a different movie. Anyway, it makes sense in my head. Sorry.
So this, I noticed this right away. Jason Gray Stanford was best known for his role as Lieutenant Randall Disher on Monk. Love Monk. Randy Disher. So despite the episode being a sequel to Prisoners, no previously on Stargate is shown. And again, this was done to surprise Kira's true identity, so it was not spoiled. And this is my open-ended question for you guys for our discussion. How should war criminals like Linnea be dealt with? Because she kind of gets away with it. She gets a happy ending. She gets her memory wiped and she gets to live on a planet where they respect her as a leader of their community. And oh well, whoops, all your war crimes, whatever, girl, it's no big deal. Like, how do we reconcile that? What should have been done? Because in my mind, I'm thinking, okay, the truly just thing to do would be to send her ass back to Hadante and have her finish out her prison sentence. Like, hold her accountable. So this leads me, like I said, I was researching Operation Paperclip because it's one of the most fascinating and kind of fucked up parts of our history. When we recruited Nazi scientists, members of the Nazi party, be like, hey, the war is over now, and like you're probably in lots of trouble, but come work for us and make science for us, and we will let you live here and not commit you for war crimes. So they did that. Like, if they were these higher up people that got away with it. Additionally, I don't know if you've seen recently, every now and then you'll see a headline, 101-year-old man who was a guard at a concentration camp was arrested for war crimes. So it's like, that doesn't feel like justice to me because of, okay, you have some like bottom tier, like very bottom of the pecking order dude who was a guard, which honestly, who knows what he did? Who really knows? Like, he could have done really awful, terrible shit to people as a guard who is getting picked up in his hundreds to be convicted of these crimes that were honestly committed a lifetime ago. It has been like some people's lifetime since that has happened. he is getting picked up and convicted, and he's getting justice. But then these other people who were higher up, who actually had the power and actually made decisions that harmed people, making weapons and shit, they get off scot-free almost. And they're like, well, just come live in America and make weapons for us. Like, it'll be cool.
Here's what I feel about Linnea personally, if we're asking about that, is I don't know, even as Kira, like the way she behaved in the labs and stuff made it feel like she was perfectly capable of going like right back down that path.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
She wants to immediately try again, you know,
Mhm.
when it doesn't work the first time, which you don't know what that would do to somebody. Like, it's like, oh, you could
Mhm.
just forget. But like, she already proved that after she had forgotten, she was still capable of doing the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So it's not like she's completely like off the hook. She's never going to do anything ever again. Because if it truly felt like she's never going to do anything ever again, I'm like, I don't know. I don't know how I feel about that. If she really weren't going to like turn into the same person, but she ultimately did look like she was going to turn into the same person.
Yeah.
Right.
So
She was capable and also like naturally inclined to do
Mhm.
those certain things. Like, it was in her nature, which kind of brings into the like, are serial killers, is it nurture or nature that creates a serial killer? Like, how do we like how do these people become in our society? Like, what is it that triggers someone to do this stuff? So I still don't know.
it's a combination, it feels like.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But there are plenty of things that can happen to people that don't turn them into a monster, that those same things happen to other people and they do, like,
Mhm.
but that speaks right there to Linnea, probably turning into the same thing again.
Yeah.
My problem with Linnea and what happened, so staying on that course, because I don't want to go on a total derailment, is I'm okay that she got like I'm not for just the immediate killing as much as I'm like we should have just killed her off, been done with it. I'm not for unnecessary killing. And there would have needed to be more put into like, is this someone who needs to like be done? What I'm not okay with is that she got her happy ending and it went unchecked. There was no follow-up. There was no like, we need to watch for these tendencies. There was literally just a like, we're
Yeah.
done. We're gonna trust that it's gonna happen. And Carter and Fraser are of those two are smart enough to know that she would probably fall back into those. Like with all that they know about
They
I
watched
just
her. They watched her doing those things, like they were watching her do the things and they're like,
Mhm.
"Hold on. Check yourself,"
and that's my like I'm okay that we gave it a shot, but there should have been the check-in parameters with a fail-safe with a kill code, and it should have been like if X, Y, and Z dead on sight.
I
But we
think they
didn't do
should have
that.
locked her up on Earth.
Yeah, like if this was
Mhm.
real Earth, she would have been one of those people that they like, okay, come work for us, girl. Come work for the government. We'll give you like 3 squares a day and
But
you
that's
make
where
4 weapons for us.
But that's where I think it's a problem. So one, they lock her up and they don't do that, or they do exactly that. Either way, someone's going to find out about her. You think about like the NID, like someone's going to find out about her, find a way to weaponize her, and so their best bet was to keep her off of Earth. Like they couldn't have someone like that around on Earth. I don't think that would have been the right thing.
Until you find out that the NID is just going off world or whatever anyway. Like,
Yeah, doing whatever they want.
Yeah, but like that's not a known thing.
yeah.
At this point. So that's my in brief. That we just should have had a kill code, some sort of something else in place, not just a okay goodbye.
Regular call-ups to the planet to be like, "Yo, is
Has
she
anyone gone megalomaniac yet? Yeah.
maybe not tell her that she had been a leader of their people."
Right. Bad place to start.
Bad place to start.
Because then her curiosity is going to go, well, what kind of leader? She still has access to all those research labs, all
And
the research that was done.
And it's not clear if she just started to recall these memories on her own, her feelings of like, I would gladly watch you die, or if it was because she had like that little bit of a cure. Like how foolproof is this memory wipe? Is there, if there's even a remote chance of any of those tendencies coming back, it's too great a risk.
Because if anybody can solve that memory, like not having their memory anymore, it's gonna be Linnea.
Right.
Like clearly, because she's the one that helped, made it happen the first time. So
Well, and now everybody's going to get their memories back except for her. So then they're going to, by nature, just tell her. Someone's going to tell her, here's who you were. Someone
Yeah.
will tell her that.
yeah, there's too many what ifs in the solution that they came up with, for sure.
And this is where it makes me uncomfortable because I don't know what box to put her in because I don't have enough information. And I think that's like when you hear about, I try to reserve judgment, and it's like, okay, on the surface level, yeah, that looks bad, but I need more context. I'm not going to like fully like make a judgment call. So like what we know, it's like, did she purposely make this plague? Was it an accident? That like, who knows?
So I think they give us a curious kind of example of the nature versus nurture, because her nature is that by default she is highly intelligent, super curious, very capable. And that probably lends into, that was her baseline and will always be her baseline. But then as she has these tendencies, these dark urges that are just part of her inner core, her moral compass, like her reset did still show curiosity to the extreme of like finding it all out. She didn't walk away. She wasn't like, no, not my problem. Like she always showed she would go to the ends of it and be at the top of that chain.
It's a little confusing the way they built her characterization, because when you first meet Linnea, Kira, she's like saving somebody who's going through like an allergic reaction, right? So she was doing the same things in the Hadante too.
Yeah, she cured a blind guy.
But it's like, I guess you could still argue, because it was clear in Hadante she was doing it to maintain power. So I guess she was already kind of heading in that direction as Kira too. Like, I've built their trust, I'm going to take care of them, so I'm in charge, basically, without even realizing she was doing the same thing. But like, otherwise, she cares about these people, she wants to heal them, but then she clearly shows that as long as the issue gets interesting enough for her, she doesn't, It's just kind of weird how it's built, how her characterization's built.
But I kind of like it though, because it makes you think. Like, it's not all black and white, and it gives you the whole, like, it introduces the astounding topic of like two things can be true at once. So like, I hear people talk shit all the time, like Margaret Sanger invented birth control. Great, love you for that, girl. Also, terrible human being and eugenicist. Not very awesome, girl. Not cool. Two things can be true at once. She could have made really great contributions to women's medical health and reproductive health, but also be a terrible human. Like, two things, like it. So Linnea could also help people and heal their blindness and save them from an allergic reaction, but also be a kind of terrible megalomaniac, homicidal freak. Like,
well, yeah, but to me, that's like, without the healing part, without the like showing that, she's setting up this like, I care about the people at the beginning, it, even including the Hadante, I'm taking care of people, even including that, it feels very sociopathic. Like, I don't actually relate to other people, she because the doing everything she was doing in Hadante was clearly so that she could stay in the status that she could stay in and keep being able to do the things she was doing. Like, that was very clear in Hadante.
So her motives, it was her motives.
Yeah.
Makes me think of The Good Place. Your motives weren't good intentions. So that's true. You can still have bad intentions, but still affect people in positive ways.
No,
so
and I think if she subconsciously was, even without even realizing, kind of setting up that same situation, that's how I could understand that. Like, that characterization would make more sense to me.
Yeah.
Because she could, like, as Kira, she doesn't know why she has those like motivations, but she has them,
Yeah.
So
and it can totally like give people a god complex. Like
Mhm,
you hear all the
Mhm.
time that like surgeons are like super arrogant, or like certain doctors have this god complex because they can heal people, and like they're reaching into you and like pulling the illness out. So like it gives her that modicum of power. So
mhm.
like even though to
Mhm.
that person it's like, thank you, you saved my life, you cured my blindness, to her it could just be like a power trip. And this is why I wanted so much more. We could have had so much more.
No, but instead we got a fucking love story that
Yeah.
never needed to happen.
If she
Yeah.
hadn't, like, in that last, like, Daniel and Linnea interaction, saying the, like, I care about you more than I've cared about anyone
Like,
ever,
you
it's
don't
like,
even know him.
you don't know him, and you probably don't care about anybody ultimately, like, but
No, but that was
we didn't
again
have
a
time
power.
for those.
But that was like a power play struggle, like a more of a narcissistic control, a love bombing, a
Mhm.
like a survival tactic. But it's so fucking frustrating because yeah, instead of all this that we could have gone into, they make Daniel's character this fucking like desperate ass weak person who's gonna give it all up for the next woman that comes along that like gets his dick hard, like, and he's just gonna die with her. He's like, I'm not leaving you, I'm gonna die here with you. Dude,
Cornball.
fuck off. Like, you're that's a
I
it,
I'm not buying it. I don't buy it.
no.
It's not. It's
Mm-hmm.
frustrating. I wanted to learn more about Linnea, more
Mm-hmm.
about Vias, so many other things that they could have filled in that 7 or so minutes of them, like whatever. But I do have some excerpts I would like to
Yes.
read to you from an undisclosed source. Peter DeLuise, in regards to this episode, said, when I read the script for this episode, which included an industrial setting in a modern society, I suddenly became intrigued by all the new possibilities of what we might find after walking through the Stargate. Of course, I knew anything was possible, but the show had not taken advantage of that kind of setting yet. Most of the stories prior to this had been implied that after the Gould left their human slaves behind, our alien planets, they had not advanced very far in technology. Wow, thanks. You were so excited. And we got nothing. Like next to nothing.
Well,
David,
Peter DeLuise didn't direct this one though,
no,
so, yeah.
but he's a known director, writer,
Yeah, he did a
whatever
lot of them. Yeah.
for the show, heavily involved.
Mhm.
David Reed said this episode is maybe the first example of Stargate bringing a plotline to a close. We let Linnea out and she went to work right away on harming another civilization. Only in this case, she couldn't get out of the way of her own plan fast enough and ended up de-aging not only an entire population but herself, as well as killing God knows how many kids in the process. I need to go back to that. I'm sorry they never revisited that bad guy again. Friends of mine consider her the best Stargate villain out of all of them, but she got a satisfying conclusion. This made me think. He said, as well as killing God knows how many kids in the process. Were there children? And the fact that they just
Mhm.
de-aged so much, like Benjamin buttoned them into nothingness?
Yeah, I would think so.
Just
Or
because
it could have just killed them because they can't
they're
de-age,
like
like
Yeah.
re-feticize and
prepubescent. What are you gonna do? Like,
yeah, like they just like completely de-age themselves out of existence. But that was never, because in the episode they say there was the fertility problems. Did that cause mass sterility amongst the people?
So I think that
Or
does answer like a thing that I was about to bring up about like, well, there would be people of all ages. So if this regression did happen, there would be a like ground zero
Mhm.
where you would have somebody that would revert to like age 1 or age 2 or 3 or 4. Like somebody would have reverted to that age. But for nobody to have really done that would then be supported by a fertility issue, which means there were just no preteens or no like 20s to
yeah,
have even gotten there.
yeah,
Because without a fertility problem, then you have a plot hole of like, well, then what happened to all those people?
It might be because, and I see your comment. It said I thought they had fertility problems before Linnea arrived. Yes,
Mhm.
but it's almost like the way they said it in the episode was like, so there's fertility problems and there's sterility. Like that's two different
Mhm.
things.
Right.
Yeah.
What are we talking about here? You know, like what level are we talking about? So, and it never quite explained, you know, just
Yeah.
how bad the pesticide was for, you know, fertility.
Yeah. So
Again, we could have used those 7 minutes, people. We could have
I
used
guess maybe there were people of a younger age and they just ended up dying
them. Mhm.
through the de-aging process. They were de-aged out of existence, Benjamin Button style. So anyway,
We're gonna go with that. Let's go with
yeah.
that.
I like
Yeah.
it. I like it.
Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah.
Whew, okay,
I
I'm glad
think
this is over.
yeah, I think I would have liked the episode to end with maybe like Linnea looking over her shoulder and like giving them a look of not like, I know who I am, bitch. Fooled you again. That would have been more interesting.
Mm.
Agreed. Agreed. So at least we would be out there wondering when her villainous would come out.
Yeah.
All right. Whose turn is it?
Man, I don't know anymore. Like
Not me. I did the fridge one.
Oh,
I had
you
done the
did do
2.
that.
I think I did 2
No,
in a
I
row
think it's
before
my
then.
turn.
Yeah.
I think it's my turn.
Well, you know, you have the strongest opinions on this episode.
Blue tomato, tomato.
You know what's next, though? You know what's next?
Oh, John Lenar's
Lenar's
memories.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Get a 2-parter in there. Coming up.
Get some
Okay.
Sam Carter action.
You guys are going to get exactly the close the iris that this episode deserves.
Oh, hold on. I gotta get ready for this.
Get the thing ready.
I gotta get that. Okay, go.
Okay, well, hold on. Where in the notes is the Okay.
Just go to our.
I got
text,
it. Okay. Boo, tomato, tomato, boo. Close the iris. Boo, tomato, tomato.